Hello, I'm Kristy Wallace, and this is Suddenly I See, a podcast which explores the power of a positive mindset, gratitude, and love in changing your life for the better. Join me as I share the mind hacks, rituals, and choices that have helped me survive and thrive in the face of adversity to arrive at a point where suddenly I see what truly matters in this life. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12, Your Vibe Attracts Your Tribe. This is something that has been really important in our journey, and it's about surrounding yourself with the right people. So there's a quite well-known quote by Jim Rohn which says, "You are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with." And that is so true, I find, in life. You really need to think about who are you spending your time with, what are their mindset, what's their approach, is it in line with who you want to be and with what you think, or do you need to pivot and change the people you're spending time with? And I think when it comes to therapy teams, when you have a child with disability, and especially in a regional area, this can also be really quite challenging because you are limited in who you can access to an extent. But I still believe there's a huge element that we have control over who we're going to let into our circle and who's going to work with our children and be part of our family environment. We've been really lucky that we felt like we've always had a really great team around us. So we've had, our allied health therapists, support workers, teachers. All these people have a huge impact on Patty, and we've been lucky to always be surrounded by really great people. But upon reflection, I feel like while there's an element of serendipity and the right people just appearing at the right time, part of me also thinks in a way that we've created that for Patty. We've always led with our heart. We've always had a really positive, high expectation kind of approach with Patty. And I think the people who work with us mirror that. And if they don't, then we tend to find somebody else. So it's not really by chance that we have this amazing team. I think, in hindsight, really, we've probably helped to build that. And I think that we've attracted our tribe, just being the way we are and having the expectations that we do for Patty. One of the first ladies that came into our life that really made a huge difference in our team was Lynn, who is a vision specialist teacher from the Department of Education. And Lynn came to us again through one of those little small town, I know someone who knows someone kind of scenarios. So as a teacher at the high school, as you've heard from previous episodes, there was also a vision support teacher working in our school. And so when all of this happened with Patty, she obviously heard that Patty had then become blind and thought, and took it back to her team and said, there's a young boy now in Temora who's completely blind. And so then we were able to sort of, back channels, find out that we could actually start working with the Department of Education before Patty even entered school. And this is something that not many parents know about because often you don't think about school till a year or two before you're about to start. And it was just that we had this kind of connection through my previous job that it was raised with us that we could actually reach out to the Department of Education for some support. And so Lynn was the brave woman who came on board. And this was actually something quite new as well for Lynn and for the team at the Department of Education, because as I said, it wasn't common that you would work with a child who's only 2 years old. They're more likely to be working with 4 or 5-year-olds. So good old Lynn, she has such an incredible positive can-do attitude and an extreme great wealth of knowledge on vision impairment. And so she combined those two things and from there really became our main guide on how to support a child with a vision impairment. And Lynn and I were just recalling actually the other day about some of our first sessions. So obviously we need to meet in a public place, so that it was above board. So we would meet in the library in our local town, which is very quiet, and try all manner of things to try and help Patty grow and develop his skills. And so there was a booklet from the Texas School for the Blind, and it basically had all of these developmental areas for children with vision impairment. So while a regular child might just have physical movement as an area, we had trying to develop tactile sensory approaches to things. We had learning to find things in spaces and all this additional kind of curriculum that is applied to people with vision impairment. And Paddy to this day at school actually gets his regular report as a mainstream student would, but he has what's called the extended core curriculum, which is a whole nother level of curriculum that Paddy needs to learn as well to be a proficient student. And so his workload and cognitive load is enormous actually at school. And this is where we kind of got introduced to some of these extended core curriculum ideas with Lynn. And so she would come in, for example, we needed to eventually build up to learning Braille when it was time for school, Paddy to get ready for school. And so I remember she had a muffin tin because a Braille cell is 6 dots. So she had one of those small muffin tins with the 6 muffin holes in it. And so even just getting Paddy to play with that and bring awareness to this idea that here's a tray that has 6 holes or 6 things that are risen from in it, which would later become paralleled to a Braille cell, which has 6 dots within it as well. Or, finding different stickers and things that we could put in books, so to try and guide him through a book and make a book tactile so he could enjoy it, not just from us reading to him, but he could feel certain elements that explained what was being either shown in the picture or explained through the text on a page. And she was our light in a very dark tunnel of how do we approach this. And again, being regionally based, a lot of our other services where we had, yes, OT and physio, and they were fabulous as well, but vision wasn't their expert area. So they came in as a physiotherapist and they did extra research to find out, now, how would I apply it to someone who's vision impaired? Lynn came with knowledge of vision impairment and then was able to operate from a very different perspective. And so her knowledge was invaluable in those early years for us. We also needed then, when it was time for Paddy to go to daycare, which was another huge step. One, we needed to find a daycare, and then we needed a support worker as well. And we were lucky, we had a couple of daycares in our town, and the first one I went to was outstanding. And I met with Robin, who was the manager of the daycare that we decided to enroll Paddy in. And I remember explaining all of Paddy's needs. And when you put that kid on paper, it's scary. No, it really is an overwhelming task to see Paddy's medical needs and physical needs and support needs on a piece of paper. It's a lot. And I remember thinking, I don't even know if they're going to say he can come, because it really is a huge undertaking. And Robin was so beautiful about it. And she just went, yeah, we can do all that. That's fine. And it wasn't a naivety. It was a genuine, this woman has all heart, and she was going to find a way to make that work for us so that Paddy could attend daycare and be exposed to those kind of rites of passage that every other child goes through at, 2 or 3 years of age. And we were lucky that we had family support too. So Paddy really was about 3, I think, before he was getting ready to head to daycare too. So the other challenge, though, is that Paddy, obviously had his endocrine issues as well, and he was still predominantly non-verbal, so it was really hard to explain if he was unwell. So it was quite a serious undertaking for the daycare, but they took it all in their stride and just led with heart that every child deserves an education, and so we'll find a way to make sure we can do that safely here. And then when it came to find someone who would be his aid and support worker there, we were so lucky to have another local resident, Wendy, who's just, again, another person. If you know her, she's 100% passion, 100% heart. And she was outstanding with Paddy because she was what you would describe as firm but fair. So she wasn't going to let Paddy miss out on anything or sit on the sidelines, because you're going to have a crack at this, Paddy. And Paddy is someone who, to this day, sometimes needs a nudge to, take on a little bit of initiative. And a lot of that I attribute as well to Wendy, who always was like, yep, let's go, Paddy, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. She was the greatest cheerleader and champion you could find for Paddy, and she thought outside the box. If there was some way that we needed to include him, she would find a way to make sure that he was there and he was a part of that. And she did such a great job too of building relationships between Paddy and the other students at the daycare centre and bridging the gap for them to be able to interact with each other. And with that, I should say we also had Ashley, who was another outstanding educator that worked with Paddy as well to make sure that he gave everything a go and that he was really well and truly included. So again, luck to an extent that these people, the right people, just popped up for us, and they continue in a way to pop up in the right setting. Another lucky find for us was another worker who was in the daycare centre as well, called Sam. And she was actually a girl that I used to teach at high school. So again, one of those nice little small town moments where you see people right through their life. And Sam was also studying to be a personal trainer in the background. And so being at daycare with Paddy and having some time with him, she approached me and said, look, I think there's a few things I can do, physical wise to help build his strength. Like, are you open to me doing that with Paddy while he's at daycare? I thought, gosh, yeah, let's give that a try. And so from there, we actually ended up engaging Sam as a personal trainer for Paddy outside of daycare. And to this day, all these years later, Sam is still Paddy's PT, and every week we have a session with her. And she has been an incredible gem and tool for us with Paddy, because each week we have that 45-minute session with her, and it's the consistency that he needs to actually make growth and strengthen his muscles. And it's something that he really loves. So, while trying to play soccer with his mates is really challenging and hard, this kid smashes a PT session like you wouldn't believe. And I love, because he has this mindset too, where Sam will be like, all right, Paddy, should we do 20 squats or should we do 30? And he'll be like, 30. And he's got that like athlete mindset where he's like, I'm actually going to go harder because I want to challenge myself. And so PT for Paddy is such an outlet that lets him have those challenges, try new things, connect with his body and learn how to move it and strengthen it. And then that, in turn improves how he holds himself, how he walks, how he navigates the world, how he tries other tasks and sports at school. And all of that came from having an incredible worker in the centre make her connection with PT and disability and go, actually, I think I can help this kid, and offering to do it. And like, what a gem Sam has been. She now has gone on to start her own business, working with children in particular, trying to improve their physical strength. But she has a real little niche passion as well for children with disability. So again, you never know who's going to be in the room, but if you're open to opportunity, you'll be amazed at who you'll find on the journey too. I found as time went on, though, that while we had a great support team around us, what I was lacking was support for myself. It was great to bounce ideas off allied health professionals, but again, I really needed that support from another mum who'd done it. So in the early stages, I spoke a lot to Belinda, who guided me, back with my initial questions around Paddy being vision impaired. And then, as time went on further down the track, I thought, I really need another mum. Where's another mum that I can bounce off as well? And so I'd mentioned to our guide dogs worker with Paddy that, is there anywhere that you can make contact with other parents? Because again, it's tricky. I know everyone's got to have privacy and confidentiality. So you can't just say, I know this other mum, you should meet up with her, because, you've got to get permissions and it's really quite difficult. But because of that, it's also quite isolating, because you don't get to know other people around in your community. And being regional, there was only a limited amount of people anyway, right? And so I said to her one day, I just feel like I need another mum or someone else I can bounce ideas off. Like, how did they do this? Or how did they go about this, stage in life? And she said, oh, I know this lady actually that would probably be willing to talk to you. Like, her kids are grown up now. Her name's Gina, and she has 3 kids who are blind. And I just went, what? This is my Gina from back when Paddy was a baby, when I first needed someone, and I was like, hold on, tell me more about this lady. And so I started bouncing things off her. And it turns out, like, from this Vision Australia call, where this lady could have been anywhere in Australia, like, as far as I knew, she could have been in Perth raising her 3 blind children. She lived an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where we live. The whole time. I was like, what? And so I actually just welled up in tears. Like, I know this lady. I met her years ago. She was my light in the dark. She was my everything that got me through to this point, knowing that she raised 3 blind kids so I can do Paddy. And so it turns out, it's the exact same woman. Again, you can't write that stuff. That's serendipity, and we'll take it. And so I organised to have a coffee with her, and that was such a powerful moment to just go, one, to be able to thank that person and say, you have no idea the impact you had on my life all those years ago, and to be able to stand here with you and say thank you for that means a lot to me. And so when I first met her, I just cried for the first few minutes until I could and get out what I needed to say. But then just to sit and chat, raising a kid with vision impairment, wow, it's an experience I've not been able to do with any other parent until that point, really. Quick chat with Belinda on the phone, but to sit in a space and have a coffee and hear all the great things her kids did and how she did certain things, or, her son went to space camp at NASA. Like, that's a thing for kids with vision impairment. When you're a teenager and older, you can, go over to NASA and get experience in what it's like to be an astronaut. Who knew? Nobody, until you meet another mum whose kid's done it. And Paddy at the time was passionate about, he wanted to be an astronaut was his big thing when he started school. So I'm like, well, you know what, Paddy, you bloody can, because I've just found NASA Space Camp. So having the right people around you is so important, but I think also taking the initiative to find them, because yes, there are a lot of people who just seem to fall in our lap, and that was beautiful, and we're very grateful for that. But I think there's also times where I've acknowledged that we need to change our team, and I've gone and sought other people instead, or I need more support and connection for myself. And so I've asked questions, and I've gone out of my way to try and find that right tribe to be around all of us and support us as we go on this journey with Paddy, which, as I said, is quite a unique journey. Even within vision impairment, it's an incredibly unique journey because there are so many different types of vision impairment. And so that obviously impacts how you navigate the world so differently for each person. So it really is rare but also invaluable to find your people along on this journey. So yeah, look, 1, it's luck. 2, we put out what we wanted and we modeled it. There's another quote that I really like. I don't know who said it, but I'm sure they're great. And it was like, don't expect someone else to do what you're not willing to do as a parent. And as a teacher, that hits home for me in a lot of ways, as well as a parent, right? So we don't expect from our support workers and from our teachers and our allied health professionals anything that we're not willing to do and implement in the home as well. You can show up to physio once a week and that's going to be great. Like the child will learn something in that hour session, but then I need to be willing as a parent to also contribute to that and back the expert and help them out. And I think as a teacher, we see this so often where parents are like, well, what are you going to do about the fact that my kid can't read and write? And you think, well, yes, it is the teacher's job to do that. But also as a parent, what are you doing to support them to achieve that goal? You know, with Paddy, we say regularly when we have review meetings and things at school, that's, you know, okay, good. How can we reassess what's been happening? How can we improve it? But also, what can I do as a parent to support? What do you want that to look like? Because in order for your child to grow, in order for you to grow, you've got to be willing to do the work. And I think in a society today where we outsource everything, it's actually really important to stop and think, what am I doing, though, to try and help this situation? Instead of trying to get everyone else to solve our problems, how am I solving that problem, or how am I making that better or enhancing that for Paddy, or even in my own life? Am I sitting around being a victim, or what am I doing to try and lift and improve that area that I'm struggling with, or who can I connect with to get the skills and knowledge I need, or the inspiration and motivation to keep me going? It's so important. All right, takeaways, I guess. We're there already for this episode. First one is that you're going to get back what you put out. So if you can lead at life with, you know, a positive energy and vibe, having high expectations for yourself or for your child, then you're going to hopefully attract people that are going to mirror that back to you. And if you don't attract the right people, and I've had it before too, where I think I'm tolerating substandard services here from, you know, certain physios or whatever it might have been. Be willing and brave, and it's hard. Like we had one physiotherapy team that we'd worked with since Paddy was diagnosed, and we got, you know, up to 7 years nearly of service with those people. And I thought, actually, I think we're at a point now where the expectations are just too low for Paddy, and he's not making the progress we need. So I think it's time to shake things up and find someone new. And it was the best thing we did. We've got an amazing person now in that role that's made so much progress just in 12 months with Paddy. So it's about trying to attract the people you want, but also being brave enough and willing to say, actually, these people are not who I want in my life still, so I'm going to switch that out and change because I want more for myself, or I want more for my child. The next takeaway is that showing gratitude and heart really keeps people invested in what they're doing. For me, that comes very naturally. I'm someone that I probably overshare. I speak from the heart. I try not to filter too much, you know, because I just want to be open and honest with people. And because of that, I think we attract people who also lead with their heart, who are open and honest. Like I can't tell you the amount of times that we've had therapists in sessions with Paddy or support workers that just tear up at the idea of seeing Paddy achieve that goal. And they're the people I want because they're the ones that I know are invested with their heart. They're not there for the paycheck. They're there because they genuinely care about seeing this kid make progress. And they're the kind of people that you want to be around. But in saying that, to keep those people on board, and again, this is not something I set out to do, but in hindsight, I reflect and I see that If you show people gratitude and you show people that they are valued in what they do, then those people are always going to want to work harder for you and do more for you than if you go into it and you're not grateful for their work and their efforts. So where you can, always show gratitude, always tell people how much you value and appreciate them, because it's important for them to know that and to feel that. But actually, without trying, you will get more out of it for yourself. It's one of those beautiful win-win scenarios. And the final takeaway is to go and find your people. It's not a passive process. You can't sit there and just think, nah, I don't like my friends. I think I want to change them. But sitting at home is not going to find you a new friend group, for example. So you've got to be willing to step out of your box and make that change and initiate trying to find the people you want around you if you're not happy with who you've got there. Because ultimately, as I said at the beginning, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And we need to choose those 5 people really wisely, whether it's support workers and team or whether it's just your friends or even family. If those people are not lighting you up and helping you be the person that you want to be, then you need to branch out, think bigger, expect more for yourself, and go and find those people. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye. I hope this episode has given you something to reflect on or some tools that you can implement in your own life. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with your family or friends. It would mean so much to me. Remember to stay positive, be grateful, and take each step of the journey with kindness and love in your heart. Until next time, bye.